I'm Pat Waters. I have the privilege of being the head of HR for Procore, and I've been with Procore since November of 2020. And it's my privilege to have a conversation today with Doug. Doug Hahn is the Director of Operations at MyCom. So Doug, thank you for joining me today. Super excited for our conversation.
Thank you for inviting me.
Today, we're going to talk about belonging and construction, and how do you create a community in construction during these just really unusual times. Doug, I want to understand how you think about culture, community, psychological safety when folks are angst about the craziness happening around us, mental health, and how do you create energy and inspiration on the construction sites when you're so distributed as an organization. I know with the pandemic, I, in my role as head of talent, have stretched my skills and my learning beyond anything I've ever expected. I mean, sending everyone home just a year and a half ago, we thought it was going to be a few weeks, a couple of months. Fast forward, we're in a variant situation. Folks are still trying to figure out what is the best way to keep our employees safe, and then dealing with all the repercussions of this pandemic in terms of care for self and family and home and our customers. And so it is a really complex thing. I have been studying a student, if you will, of diversity, inclusion, and belonging for several years now. And I realized a few years back that diversity and inclusion were necessary, but not sufficient, that really to grab the culture in an organization, to really get the most out of all of us, we need that sense of belonging. And that is a universal need across the globe. And I'm excited to explore what that means in construction. So Doug, can you start off sharing how you even got in construction and what your role is so everyone knows who you are a bit?
Sure. Thank you again for the invite. This is a pleasure to have a discussion on this topic because it's a very important topic, specifically for the success for companies in this atmosphere and this environment that we're in now. Well, I've been in construction all my life. I grew up in it. Worked for my father when I was a teenager in construction. So he actually started me off managing my own crew when I was 17, doing replacement windows in a Section 8A housing project in Dayton, Ohio. So it was nothing like a 17-year-old being a working foreman and managing workers that were almost twice his age. So it was definitely an eye-opening experience, and I've been in one form or the other of construction management ever since. I am a licensed general contractor in the state of Florida. As you said, I'm director of operations for MyCom, and we are a nationwide construction company specializing in, I call it high-tech construction or data construction for your internet providers, cable providers, cell phone providers. We build the buildings that hold the cloud, as I like to say. So we build the buildings, renovate the buildings, maintain the buildings, and provide them the power and the air conditioning and the other environment that's needed for that building envelope, as well as the redundancy that's needed for backup power, that type of thing. In my history and how I got here, because I've been with MyCom a little over 4 years now, I've worked with other companies that were national companies that had remote workforces, so that have had their own, self-performing a lot of their own work, like MyCom does. So had a lot of crews, some small, some big, that traveled all over the country, and just having the decades of experience dealing with traveling and remote construction crews through my career has, I felt, given me kind of a unique perspective on the management and the do's and the don'ts, if you want to put it that way.
That's good. Gosh, you started so young and learning how to lead others, and the diversity of that team blows my mind. I don't think I was doing that at 17.
And when my dad started me there, everybody started calling me an SOB, son of the boss. They knew right offhand that, I had a little bit of power behind me, but I didn't take advantage of it. And I learned some very valuable management skills then, because I had to be very humble because, I didn't know as much as some of the other guys did.
Yeah. And usually It's a higher bar for the son of the boss or the daughter of the boss,
Yeah,
for
it
sure.
is. Mm-hmm.
In terms of belonging, so just to ground everyone in the audience, belonging is the one sense that us as human beings are compelled to have in our communities. Like, we are genetically wired to want to belong. Now, what happens with that genetic wiring? We want to belong to a community, to a team, to a cohort, to a company, right? Whatever, and our family and our friends, like, that sense of belonging is super, super important to our happiness and our health and our survival. So, eons ago, when we were first coming out into the world, the diversity of who we are helped us survive. Hunters and gatherers, etc. That sense of belonging, coming together as a tribe, helped us stay protected. Now, in the modern era, Doug, what's happening with the sense of belonging is that we will sometimes mask trying to fit in. We will pretend to like the jokes, or women will pretend to like sports analogies when we have no idea what football might be about or basketball. But that sense of belonging, that compelling need to fit in, means sometimes we fake it, right? And so we're not authentically us. Now, studies show that if we are authentic in who we are in the workspace, in our communities, you get the best out of us and we're happier. There's studies around this that if I can achieve that connection with my coworkers, with my community in a real authentic way, then you get more of my quote voice, right? I have more input into the workspace, into problem solving. There's more diversity of thought. There's better outcomes because we're rumbling on things together in a really respectful way. And I have psychological safety. And so for me, I'm striving always to create a culture of belonging, both at Procore and my prior companies, where you come in being authentically you, that we celebrate what's different, and teach each other how to have these conversations. Now, from a construction point of view, how does belonging manifest within your world? And what do you do in your organization to create community and that sense of belonging and care?
Good question. I think to kind of start off, let me put things in perspective a little bit. MyCom does operate in just about every state in the United States, and we have uh, our clients and customers. We don't have that many. We may have a few dozen customers, but the repeat business is substantial, and because it is the internet market, the cable TV market, that type of thing. And right now, in relationship to field employees, MyCom does have a couple different business units that do different aspects of the business that we're in. And each business unit can have anywhere from 20 to as many as 100 field employees. So we have hundreds of employees to deal with and active and workforces that we have to organize and keep moving. And for instance, just in our critical infrastructure and construction side, there are 100 active employees on Procore on a daily basis that interact with each other on the data and to go back and forth. So putting that into perspective, with our, we do several different things to keep that type of environment. One, we don't let anybody work on their own. Occasionally, of course, management will visit, by themselves and visit to a site, but our crews are a minimum of two. Usually it's a teacher and a learner, if you want to, or a master and a journeyman, or a journeyman and an apprentice. So you always have a minimum of two. And usually it's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever the crew size may be that goes to each job. This is on what we self-perform. And so you have that bond that first starts there with their crews, and you keep the crews together. We rarely split them up and send them elsewhere. You want to create that bond of that small microcosm together with the group. Then I can't say it enough. From management on down and on up, communicate, communicate, communicate. Make it very easy to communicate. Make it very easy for them to call anybody in the company and ask for help, ask a question. There are no stupid questions. So we have to create an environment in which they're not afraid to ask a question. They're not afraid to report a problem. That they know that we're not there to to be the bully with the whip and crack the whip and, hey, we got to do this and stay on the schedule. It's, they're very valuable resources in the field, and they're people, they're human beings, and they need to be treated with respect. And when you treat them with respect and you show them that you care and that you have some team building and some social interaction as well, that eventually everybody has this comfort level that it's just one big family. And if I need help, I know who to call to get help, and it's they're not ashamed of doing it. So keeping that communication open and keeping that camaraderie going, and if there's a problem or an accident or something happens, the answer should always be, is everybody okay? Are you all right? And then, what happened, and what do we do to fix it, and what do we do to prevent it from happening again? It's not sent into the Inquisition. You know what I mean?
So, Doug, how do you measure that sense of community and camaraderie and the care that you're offering to your employees? Because that's super important, knowing that I'm not alone, knowing that there's a phone call away for care, right? Depending on the situation. How do you measure that you're successful in that? How do you ensure that you are communicating appropriately, frequently enough to your employees to ensure that they have the resources they need to feel great?
Well, we also get together regionally and even nationally once or twice a year with all of our traveling folks in the field, so that we can have that face-to-face group um, to not only share new things and training and support and give acknowledgments for great work, but to also listen and make sure that they understand that their voice is just as important as anybody else's. And we're there to listen. And when we get feedback from them that, hey, I have what I need, don't have any problems, or hey, it's great talking with you, when we feel that sense of comfort coming back, then you also feel a sense of loyalty coming back as well. So a good way of measuring it is measuring it in loyalty from the employees in the field, as well as the interaction. They're not distant. They're right there. They have no fear of addressing and calling just to say, hey, how was the fishing trip this weekend? That type of thing. So the more that happens, that's how you judge it. There isn't really a measure or a tape measure you can use to measure it, other than you notice it in the camaraderie and the communication, all positive, upbeat, as well as the loyalty. It just builds the loyalty, and that's loyalty both directions. You can really feel it.
So one thing that you articulated that I'm going to amplify a bit for the audience is the community. When you're pulling people together, they're asking about each other in a holistic sense, like, who are you, not what you do. Like, did you have that great fishing trip? So I know that you like fishing. I know that someone likes, baseball, or someone just had a child, or blank, fill in the blank. So I think what I'm picking up here is that you not only celebrate the company and what you do as an industry, but also each other, and get to know each other at a human level, because they're people. You said that, we're all human beings. And so you're creating space for us to connect on who we are, not just what we do. Is that a correct summary?
Yeah, it is correct. And you have to be, it's a very correct summary. And you have to be careful with, I'll just say, I call it the meetings. Because a meeting can't be a dry engineering talk and leave. All right. When we have our little regional meetings or even our national meeting, it's very important that we involve team building on multiple levels, from having breakfast together or a dinner to maybe going to an event or something during that our get together. We recently had a small regional meeting with our crews out on the West Coast, and it was only a couple dozen people, but it was only for 2 days. But that evening, when we all got together for dinner, it was just a lot of all social, hooting and hollering and getting to know each other and having a great time. And at the end, when I asked for feedback, and I made some phone calls later on feedback, it's like, what did you best like? What was your best takeaway from this get together? And the first thing was that the meeting was geared towards them. All right. And the meeting was geared towards their needs in the field. And it was great to put faces with voices and faces with names and get to know people better. And it made them feel better. And that's very important to maintain that.
All right. So again, I'm going to echo back what I heard from you, Doug, because I think you're picking up on some really good traits. One is that these meetings are geared towards them. So you must be actively listening to what their needs are, right? That I'm going to infer that. So if you are pulling them together, if you're listening actively, then you're going to modify, you're going to have agile leadership to be there for them in those sessions. So you're sprinkling in knowledge, community, camaraderie, and trust, right? Because I get to know you better. I get to put the name to the face. I have a cohort, a community now that I can rely on. And so active listening is something that you do. And you also seem to solicit feedback on what's working, what's not working. So that is awesome, right? A lot of people throw out a program and go, all right, nailed it, got my agenda done. Seems like you're staying connected to your employees to make sure did it do what we expected it to do? Did we meet your needs?
Yes, that is very important.
That is awesome. So in terms of the pandemic and the anxiety it can create into workforces and their families and mental health, how, from a construction point of view in your community and your environment, do you navigate those conversations with your employees to make them feel cared for?
Well, it was very important early on, to first understand that we were always remote. So going remote wasn't anything new for us anyway. Um, but we immediately had to put out, our safety policies and whatnot regarding how to deal with COVID and other similar things. And we've um, immediately sent out additional PPE or safety masks, hand sanitizers, things like that, to say, hey, we care. We want you to be safe. Please follow these guidelines. Please follow the CDC guidelines. We're here. If to help you. If you go through your checks every day, check your temperature every day, check see if you have symptoms every day. And if you feel like you've been exposed or whatnot, let us know. We're here to help. We have insurance that covers things. If it doesn't, we'll take care of it. Don't worry about it. We want to make sure everybody's safe, not just our employees, but our clients and our customers. So it was very important to us in the beginning that everybody knew, that, hey, this is serious and we're here to help. So you're not stuck out there by yourself per se and do your own thing. It's just very important that when not only do you address situations like this quickly and firmly and openly, the other thing that it has a great response back to management, because all of this is just not to create the loyalty, which is one of the best parts about it. It's also to improve productivity, and that's what management really looks at. That's something that's really measurable, is the productivity. And you measure productivity in several ways. One, you have lower turnover of employees. That's very productive because you know how much it costs to get new employees. And especially in this environment that we're in, it's hard to get new employees, especially in a vertical market that we're in. Then you increase productivity because they're not only more comfortable in their job, but they know that they've been trained, they have training available, they can ask the questions, no fear type of thing. And you start seeing productivity go up because the morale is up, and there is a direct correlation there. And mistakes tend to go away. They're paying more attention. They have more ownership to their work product because they know we care about them and they in turn care about us. So it's a very good symbiotic result or relationship.
All right, Doug, I just love chatting with you because you just nail it all the time. So again, I'm going to
I guess.
well, it's really important. What you're doing is emphasizing communication, open communication, right? So agile leadership, communication, physical safety, mental safety, all of that. It seems like you're intentionally there for your employees, pulse checking regularly for themselves, their family, and the customers. That's huge, and doing it openly and adapting practices where you need to be your best self and protect the employees, which I love. Again, the active listening is a key point of all this. The the outcomes of creating a psychological safety, that sense of belonging that you're doing, that you're creating, the community that you're building, does have a huge impact on business. And you just reflected it. It is productivity. Productivity goes up, quality goes up because people are speaking up. If they see a practice that is wrong or a misstep, they help each other out, they teach each other, they lean in.
They're not afraid to point out hazards or point out, hey, so and so needs some help with this. Not that he's a bum. It's just, hey, he needs help. So can we help get, go, rah, go team. It really works well.
Yeah, and there's so many proof points that the biggest driver to belonging in any organization, and this has been tested, is that when something bad happens, someone is there to help me, to care for me. And you're showing that, like if there's a mistake, if there's something, a hazard that could potentially be there, then there's someone there helping them out and being a strong guide, a strong Sherpa. So I think that's huge. In terms of the ability for the organization to stay connected, I love that you strive to have these smaller communities come together to get to know one another at a human level. That's another strength. Keep reinforcing who you are as a person, not just what you do, because our roles change over time. I love that. And these small changes that you seem to be doing, I believe they have a huge impact. I believe that every time you course correct, Doug, your employees know that you're listening and you care, and therefore they're going to lean in with more loyalty, more intentionality, higher productivity, higher care for your customers. So, super impressed.
Thank you. And yes, everybody in management here has a very open ear to all of the employees, especially the ones in the field that are out on their own, because they are the face and the eyes and the ears of the company. They see the client more than we do. They see, they're out with our work product and with it more than we are. So it's important that they show that face forward that we want to see, but it's also important that they report back to us, this didn't seem right, or there's this hazardous condition, or, hey, can I learn about this? And when they're not afraid to say those things, it just makes everything much more productive and does a lot of prevention. And like I said, end result, increased productivity. We all got to love that, right?
Yeah, you got to love it. I love it when an employee raises their hand, like, I want to learn this, right?
Yes.
I want to get stronger at that, right? And know that there's someone out there that's willing to Sherpa them and help them grow into their craft. I think that's awesome. So, Doug, I want to thank you for this conversation. I know having a widely distributed workforce and keeping that community and care live every day is tricky, right? It
Yeah.
is tricky, and you seem to be nailing it. I'm really impressed. So if I echo back, and if I miss one, please jump in and correct me. But I took some notes.
Okay.
Be human, right? Be present, be human, show your care. I think that you, MyCom, have been demonstrating that to your employees, not only during this pandemic, but forever long, right? I think that is part of your culture. So kudos for you. You solicit input and you actively listen, and you tweak things. So you're showing your agility based upon the employees' needs and their care and what they're demonstrating to you. And that, garners you a lot of loyalty and support by your employees. So that's huge. And when you do listen, you have demonstrated that you make changes. And so that again builds trust. And I think vulnerability has to happen first to get to trust. Some people think trust comes first, then you become more vulnerable. I think what you've done is created psychological safety so folks can be vulnerable, saying, I don't know, I'm worried, this doesn't look right, help me. And then you react in such a positive way. It increases your trust and all the amazing benefits this creates for your organization. Did I miss anything, Doug?
Well, I think the one thing that we didn't cover, which is probably almost one of the most important things to me anyway, that builds that trust relationship back and forth, is honesty. That we want to be honest with everybody. We want everybody to be honest with us. And truth, you can't mess it up. It is what it is. And if the folks in the field that are representing us and doing the work and helping us outperform and helping us get to our end product, work product, If they feel comfortable, and then and that we're honest with them, and that they can be honest with us without repercussion of their honesty, that creates a very comfortable, safe space for everybody. Because now you have this underlying rule that everything is honest, everything's above board, everything's glass door, honesty. This is the best policy, and that has to thread through everything we talked about today.
I love that. That honest core shows through in everything you're talking about. I mean, you're very clear about your beliefs, that of your culture. You're honest with your approach. You're very humble with it. So kudos on that. The vulnerability that it creates when you're honest with everybody and the trust you build over time, it's tangible. There's real impact. You're human. I mean, it comes through the first meeting you and I had, the humanity in what you do and how you support one another and care about each other and have those connections about fishing and your weekends and your families. That should not be underemphasized. To your point, it shouldn't be a dry meeting. It should be a human meeting to get
Exactly.
results. I love that. And safe, right?
Exactly. Safe. And like you said, the safe space. I've been using that lately. So thank you.
Well, Doug, thank you so much. I am a fan. I am so impressed with what you're building. You have unique challenges that I've not faced in my career about such a wide distributed workforce, but you seem to have done it with such intentionality of care, a sense of belonging, of community, that I'm going to take some tips and tricks back to my company and improve our sense of belonging and care. So thank you so much for your time today. I
You're
really
so
appreciate it.
welcome. And if I were to add anything at all, it's all these traits and things we've talked about need to not only be within your own employee group for a contractor, it also needs to be expanded into their subcontractors and into the other vendors that are involved with your projects, because you want to have that same outcome with your much greater effective team that's helping you produce this work. And when we do projects that range anywhere from $5,000 to $5 million, anywhere from fixing, a battery system to building a building, we deal just not with our own employees, we deal a lot with subcontractors. And creating that environment with everyone is very important. So again, thank you very much for the invite. This was very fun. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much, Doug. I wish you all the best, you and your employees, your subcontractors, and their families.
Thank you.
Have a great one.